Good afternoon, Pway League. This is Chase Pear broadcasting out of New Brunswick live for the first time in a while. And this is a special episode we got going on here. So, this is the special playoffs episode. Deserved one because of all the controversy going on. So, let's get right started into this video. So, first things first, there was three potential contenders to fill the last two spots. We had Room 40 Culprits, we had Pakistan Rats, and we had the Cooper Bowl. So, what did each of these teams need coming into the last week? Room 40 Culprits was the most likely to make it. They needed a win or one of the other two teams to lose. Pakistan Rats needed a win or the Cooper Bowl to lose. A little less probable, but still pretty probable. Now, the Cooper Bowl needed a win and either of the other teams to lose. That was the least probable out of the three of them. But here's the matchups and results. Just plain to the point. Room 40 won. Room 40 beat Andrew's awesome team. Then we got Pakistan Rats beating the Good, the Bad, and the Belfie. And we got the Cooper Bowl beating Amon Drugs. So, what this resulted in is the Cooper Bowl missing the mark because both of these teams won. However, what actually happened that occurred that made this happen? Let's get into it here. So, Maddie's team, the Good, the Bad, and the Belfie, sat their best players. So did Amon Drugs. Both of these teams, before the week even started, sat their best players. Let me turn this music off. Oh. Sat their best players. Both these teams sat their best players and had open spots on their roster. Amon Drugs had the quarterback role open. Good, the Bad, and Belfie had a wide receiver role open. Both these teams sat players, which, if the rules are strictly what the commissioner says, the commissioner has spoken. He said he didn't like the teams were sitting players. Therefore, this was unlawful, against the rules, whatever. These things shouldn't have happened. Everybody kind of agrees that we shouldn't be sitting players. It's just a general consensus. But as a result of this happening, the Room 40 culprits was about to be eliminated from the playoffs because these other two teams sat players, left open spots on their roster, didn't play the team they were supposed to. Room 40 culprits reached out to Andrew's awesome team, asking if he could do the same thing that the other two teams were doing and play a worse roster, leave some open spots on his roster, just so that he can give Room 40 the win, as the other teams were giving the other teams the win. So Andrew's awesome team did this. Room 40 culprits made the playoffs because of this, and it eliminated Cooper Bowl from the playoffs, who needed this win and had a great week to beat Amon Drugs. So if nobody sat any players, everybody played the best team possible and followed the commissioner, Paulie Walnuts, how he would have liked the game to be played, what should have happened? Cooper Bowl should have won. Pakistan Rats should have lost. Room 40 Culprits should have lost. And Room 40 Culprits and the Cooper Bowl should be the two teams that enter this playoffs. Now, everybody knows I am a huge Pakistan Rats fan. I have loved the scrappy underdog story. I have been just eating it as all of America has. However, if all things went how they should have went, then the Pakistan Rats should have been eliminated. However, I'm glad that the Pakistan Rats are in the playoffs, and I will love to see the story continue. So obviously, there's a lot of argument over this because there was corruption on some basis. Everybody says at least a little. But where did this corruption begin? Where did it really spur from? What is really to blame for this corruption? And there's two main arguments. There are two main arguments. Here's the first one. Argument one is that Room 40 is the one who corrupted it all and fucked over the Cooper Bowl. They took the spot that would have been fulfilled by the Cooper Bowl and really lit his $40 on fire. This argument follows two main premises that lead to a conclusion. The first premises being, if you sit your team for no strategic advantage, then it is corrupt. Nobody would argue that. That is a very sound premise, and that will be in both arguments. Now, the next one is that Maddie and Bobby had a strategic advantage while Schenkel did not. Now, this, if you believe it, the premises two is the one that we're going to be looking at, would lead to Schenkel's act being corrupt. Now, this is a valid argument. But is it sound? We're going to take a look at our second argument. Our second argument is that corruption can be found earlier. So if you sit your team for no strategic advantage, then it's corrupt. It's the same premises as the first one. Nobody will be debating the first premises. The second premises is that Maddie and Schenkel both had no strategic advantage. So this differs from the first one because the first one claims that Maddie had a strategic advantage. This one claims that he didn't have a strategic advantage. Now, after the fact, it is known that Maddie, that the good, the bad, and the Belfie, had no strategic advantage in sitting the players. Nobody argues after the fact that good, the bad, and the Belfie had no strategic advantage. Now, it is nearly impossible to argue what somebody believes, but so you have to prove, or it depends on what you believe that Maddie believed going into this matchup, judging on who you think is corrupt. Now, this argument says that Shankles is corrupt, but also says that Maddie's is corrupt. That's where the main difference is. So what it boils down to is obviously some people are not a fan of the second argument. They think it's hypocritical, but it is not hypocritical, and it all boils down to the same belief on what you believe that Maddie thought. Now, it's impossible to prove what Maddie thought. Maddie is probably the best person to prove what Maddie thought. However, Maddie claims that he thought it would strategically benefit him, which is a good claim. If he believed, if he genuinely believed that it strategically benefited him, then there is no corruption in what Maddie did at all. And it was just as corrupt as Bobby's, but Bobby's actually influenced him. Nobody's arguing over Bobby's. But, however, there is proof that prior to sitting his players, the good, the bad, and the Belfie reached out to his expert analyst, and the expert analyst told him the following. He said, no matter what, you're going to be the fourth seed. You're not close enough to Troy, who was above him. Troy had 1.5 wins more than him. Therefore, if the good, the bad, and the Belfie wins, he still wouldn't be ahead of Troy. And now the person below him had 1.5 wins less than him. Therefore, if that person won, no matter what, the good, the bad, and the Belfie would be in the fourth seed. And that is what the expert analyst told him. No matter what, you're stuck in the fourth seed. And Maddie agreed to that, said, okay, I understand, no matter what, I'm in the fourth seed. However, Maddie then proceeded to sit his players. He claimed that after hearing this from the expert analyst, he did further looking into it and thought that he could influence his own seed. He thought that it would be possible to influence his own seed. Now it is proven after that he could not. However, if you believe Maddie's claim that he looked into it after and that he thought that he could actually benefit his team by sitting his players, if you believe that, then Maddie's move isn't corrupt. However, if you believe that he didn't do that and sat his players for other reasons, then his move would be considered corrupt. Next is Schenkel's motivation. So a lot of people are saying that the second one is that he sat so that room 40 can get in for no other reason but that he just loves room 40. However, there does seem to be, based on the response provided by room 40, where he says, did they deadass sit people? This reaction is a surprise. Very clearly, he's at least claiming that he's surprised that they're sitting people. He's surprised that they're sitting people, and as a result, he thought that it was unfair because room 40 rightfully should have made the playoffs, because room 40 should have rightfully made the playoffs. But he believes that it was unfair that people sat people and that room 40 should have rightfully made the playoffs, and therefore, in response, decided to sit his people because he thought that the corruption had already spurred and that if he made this move, which is a corrupt move, but he thought that if he made this move, then it would fix the shift prior and that room 40 would be in the playoffs. So if believed, if you believe that he's surprised here, then you can understand that he believed that room 40 should be in the playoffs. Somebody made a corrupt move, which eliminated him from the playoffs. But if he just sat his players, because he was already eliminated, no loss for him, then room 40 would be back in the playoffs, and then it would fix the balance that they would fix the balance that should have been. Now, obviously, some corruption was somewhere. This situation is super messy. You cannot tell. Either side cannot be 100% certain what happened, where the corruption started. So how can this be fixed in the future? That's actually the next slide. However, if you think the good and the bad and the Belfie actually thought it'd give him an advantage, then it's room 40's fault. If you think that he thought that it wouldn't give an advantage, then it's the good, the bad, and the Belfie's fault. Either way, Cooper pulls out. How can we fix this in the future? Ban sitting people. You should not be able to sit people, especially when it comes down to the end where some teams are scrapping for it. Just makes an unfair climate. You can't really prove anything. Should be banned in the future. Been an honor. Been a great season, everybody. I'm excited for the postseason. Good luck to all of the individual teams going into the postseason. Sorry to Cooper Bowl, who kind of got scammed out of it. However, good luck to all the teams. The teams that are entering the postseason are as follows, since this is going back. Team 1, and in the first seed, Belmy Paving. Congratulations, first seed, Belmy Paving. The team that will be playing Belmy Paving is the Pakistan Rats in the first game. In the game directly under that, we got 4th seed, Good, the Bad, and the Belfie, playing 5th seed, House Lannister. Then, game under that, we got I'm on Drugs. I'm on Drugs will be playing Room 40 Culprits in the first round. Then, Pway Savior will be playing Pway Sexy Squirrel. Little Pway matchup there. That's going to be the game to watch. Pway Savior versus Pway Sexy Squirrels. 2 Pway teams coming at it, win the Pway Championship. But beyond that, best of luck to every team. Sorry corruption happened on the very last day to make it. Peace out. Depending on whose side you pick, it might change history.